In old world mythology, shiny squirrels were quite common. It's true. They had all suffered hardship, bad times in their lives, but finally banded together and were living a life of peace and harmony. Then something terrible happened. Some of the squirrels had grown bored with a life of simplicity, primarily the young and rebellious ones. In the middle of the night, the restless young made a secret pact to overthrow the eldest and most battle-hardened one amongst them. From lore, we only know him to be named, or Hardcore Bob, roughly translated. All was in place, and everything went exactly as the treacherous young had planned. They stripped Hardcore Bob of all of his possessions, his royalty, and to add insult to grave injury, stole his wife for their own amusement. Together, they hurled him into a temporal vortex, which they conveniently had lying around back then. And then they sealed it shut for an eternity. Bleeding, near death, and completely broken, Bob wandered the void between time and space, with no memory of what had happened for millennia. Then, one fateful day, a light shined into the depths where he had finally collapsed in absolute desperation. The light spoke to Bob and explained that it had been searching far and wide for him. Confused and frightened, Bob attempted to flee the light, for all those lost and hopeless years had driven him to the point of near insanity. Then suddenly, the light transformed. Before the old one's very eyes, two squirrels appeared in the void there, one a shining white, and the other a deep, inky black. Terrified, Bob screamed at them. Or, "What do you want from me?" Calmly, the two replied in unison, "It is you. We know the truth of what happened to you, and we have come to help restore you. Look into our eyes." Hesitant at first, but far too weakened to resist, Bob agreed. In their eyes, Bob saw the night that everything was taken from him. As he watched in absolute horror, he felt something inside of him awaken, a tiny spark that had long since been snuffed out. Reeling from the shock of all of this, Bob collapsed and fell into a deep sleep. When he finally awoke, he found himself in a room unlike anything that he had ever seen. There were mechanized squirrels, with all kinds of different wires of different colors coming out of their heads and going into the walls. The only other thing in the room was a table with two items on it. An ancient-looking sword with markings on it that he didn't recognize, and a letter. Clutching the letter, Bob read the words on the page. It simply said, "This is the first day of your new life. Pick up your weapon and embrace your destiny." As soon as he read the last word on the page, the letter vanished into nothingness. Then, without warning, the sword on the table began to hum and glow. Enticed by the sound, felt he had no choice but to do as the mysterious letter had instructed. He picked up that ancient sword in his trembling claws, and instantly a suit formed around his entire body. The suit fused itself to his very skin, burning away patches of ancient fur that he had left simultaneously. Staggering from the agonizing pain, but driven with his renewed knowledge of the wrongs that had been committed against he and his love, along with his desire to restore peace amongst his people, Bob once again looked around. The table had vanished, and the mechanized squirrels had awoken and encircled him. In one voice, they spoke to him. "You are not welcome here, and we will stop at nothing to put you back in the void. Word has already traveled to our masters, and they will not allow your vengeance to interrupt their work. They are all aware that the one known as Hardcore Bob has been reborn." Knowing this had to be true, Bob rose up and awaited as they closed in with weapons drawn. It was time once again to fight.